Today's conversation is sponsored by First Generation Capital Partners. If you're an accredited investor and you want to know about how we're helping other accredited investors keep more of their income, go to firstgencp.com/going long.
You're listening to the Going Long podcast with Billy Keels, the #1 podcast for long-distance real asset investing.
Welcome to the Going Long podcast. We're back once again to continue to help to educate you so you feel much more comfortable as well as confident investing beyond your backyard. And guess who I am? Yep, I'm Billy Keels. I'm your host. And today we've got another amazing, I think it's going to be amazing, solo episode. And so, I always like to say thanks to everybody who continues to share it on the podcast, tag us on social media. Really, really appreciate that. If you want to and haven't had a chance to leave your honest written review as well as rating, feel free to do that. And then also too, if you want to catch us or see any of the previous episodes, and there's like over 270 some odd of them at this point, go to firstgencp.com/podcast. You can find the transcripts, you can find the audio version, the video version, all that stuff. Just go to firstgencp.com/podcast. But today I want to chat about something that, it's something that's really close to my heart. And I guess at the same time, since where we are now, I want to just kind of reiterate like where we are with the podcast and what we want to continue to do to bring value to you, because we're listening to your feedback and the things that you want to hear more of. We're doing that, and also bringing the value that you're looking for. So, and I know a lot of the origins of the podcast really have started in investing long distance and living in one continent and investing in another. And maybe you're living in one state and investing in another, and coming up with new ideas and looking at different asset classes and all that stuff. We're going to continue to look at those areas because those are important to you. And so we want to continue to do that. But you've also asked, like, Billy, what are you thinking about? What are you doing? And so one of the ways that we have continued to adapt the podcast is to make sure that we bring you more of these solo episodes so I can share things that are on my mind that I believe are going to help you to move to the next level, to take the next step, not to overthink things, just to go from where you are today to where you want to go tomorrow, having a true North Star. And one of the things that, as I've thought about this, I have a buddy of mine, Chad, who's given me a kind of a framework to think about things. And really it's to look at even what we're doing here with Going Long. It is about how are we not only making sure that we are moving our life in the right direction and creating the path and the priorities that you want, but also being able to look at things like working and investing, and then ultimately being able to look at your health. And so these are things that are definitely at the top of mind. These are things that you're thinking about. They're things that I'm thinking about, and they're things that I want the two of us to explore together, right? Bringing on other experts that are going to help us to be able to explore these topics and ultimately continue to help to move us forward. So look for these things as we continue to move forward. But one of the things that I do want to share with you today, and this is based on my experience, 26 years of experience in the corporate world, and it comes from one of the conversations I've had recently on a podcast called Uncage Yourself with my buddy Matt Doan. And Matt asked me a question during the conversation, and it really got me thinking that, I think this is important to share with you, because I know that the majority of you today are still working in very large multinational companies. You're probably in the middle management or sales executive, something in that area. But, I've worked in very, very large organizations. I think the smallest one I ever worked in had 7,000 or 10,000, 7 or 8,000 people, up to 120,000 people. So I've spent the majority of my corporate career in that 100,000 plus kind of organization. So I'm really talking to you because of the experience that I've had in these types of organizations. And there's this concept of having a default path. And it's one of the things that really almost kept me back from living my best life, from being able to go long in my life perspective, was following this default path. And so if you feel that you are on a default path, like you're just going through the motions in your corporate career, and you feel like you've got to take the next promotion because that's what everybody tells you to do, I've been there. So I kind of want to talk to you about what are some of the things that I experienced when I fell into the trap of following the default path, the things that were happening to me that now, after being out of corporate life for a little bit over a year, that I'm recognizing I'm becoming much clearer on, because I want to share that with you. And as most of you know, if you've never been here before and this is your first time, welcome. But if not, I had a very, very positive corporate career. Like, I'm a big fan of having corporate roles, gaining that experience, building that network, getting that training, and also being able to see the world. I had a chance to work and travel throughout 86 countries, largely in part thanks to big, large multinational companies that I was working for. At the same time, there is a trap. And the trap, it's not your fault to fall into because it's done by design, right? So if you find yourself being on this default path in your career, you're moving up, you continue to move up, but you're not necessarily sure why. You're following somebody else's goals, not your own life goals. Like I said, it's not your fault. It's by design. Let me tell you, I'll give you an example, right? So one of the things that I continued to do when I was in my corporate roles is pretty much, and this is being an A student, recovering perfectionist, right? When I did the work, I wanted the reward. And so I was doing the long hours, I was accomplishing goals. And so the next step, the next logical step based on the corporation was you get the promotion. So it was me and other colleagues going for one role, right? So obviously it sets up kind of this who's the better individual. I used to think it was who's the better individual, but the reality is who's the best for the role at the moment in time with the right alliances and all this other kind of stuff. So what I found and what you are probably finding is the more that you continue to follow that default path, which is the normal promotion path, you are getting the accolades, you're getting the salary promotions, you're getting the bigger teams. And at the same time, you're having less time for the things that you really want to do, spending that extra time with family, taking those extra trips, because always in the back of your mind, the more responsibility, the bigger the title, the more you should be dedicated to what it is that you're doing in your corporate role. Like I said, it's not your fault. It's done by design because at the end of the day, very large corporations are like machines. They need individuals to be able to be there to drive the initiatives for the company, the big machine. Not your fault. It's by design. At the same time, I found myself at the end of many years kind of exhausted, kind of like I don't have time for myself, or with the time that I did have for myself, I was at the same time I was always kind of worried about what I should have been doing for the company, and so I wasn't as present. Like I said, this is a year removed from corporate. I wasn't as present as I would have liked to be, right? So at the same time, I will tell you that there was a time where I decided, hey, look, I'm not going to follow the default path. And because of that, there's some really awesome things that happened when I allowed myself to not follow the default path. One was after my first 5 years of working in the US, remember, I'm a guy from the Midwest of the US, I decided, hey, look, I'm not going to follow. I was working for 5 years. I didn't want to go take the next step role. So I took a 1-year sabbatical. That was back in 2001. You know what? That change in putting myself first and my life priorities first has changed the trajectory of my life. Not only was it a 1-year sabbatical, it's now been 22 years. It's been 3 different countries. It has been marriage, having two children, and also being able to learn new languages. A purely wonderful growth experience. Hasn't all been easy, right? But I didn't follow the default path, and it's changed the whole trajectory of my life. At the same time, when I got to Europe, I also back in the corporation, I started getting into big corporations and big IT companies, enterprise wide companies, hardware, software, all that kind of stuff. And so once I was in the career, I also found myself in the default path again, right? I got back into it. It's what we did as A students. At the same time, once I started moving, I had a personal life event that happened, right? And one of the things, missed my son's birthday, 3rd birthday. I've been very open about that, very transparent about that. It hurt me. And so I realized that I couldn't continue to put the company's priorities. I had to also now start to find my own priorities. So one of the things that was amazing is you learn how to put boundaries around what's really important. Your time, being able to block that, be much more proficient, much more efficient, and as well as effective. And as a result of doing that, I became a better employee. I became much more productive as an employee when I set my own boundaries and didn't let people call me all hours of the day, all hours of the night. And things started happening like, well, being a part of the top talent program and being able to go to winners trips every other couple of years, because I was much more focused on the things that I wanted to do in my private life, in my personal life. And by being able to focus on that, I also focused on making sure that I was a productive employee. And as a result, the things that are happening, as I mentioned to you before, I also had to make some difficult decisions when things didn't align. Guess what? I was no longer part of promotion process. I didn't want to enter into the promotion process because it wasn't aligned with where I wanted to go. I actually wanted to have more time. And you, as you start to look at it, what's the most important thing for you? Do you want more of your own time? Are you still in a position in your life where you need to continue to move up? You want to gain a bigger network, or you want to have more international experience? Well, maybe you have to look at that, but you have to figure out what are your priorities and then make sure that the corporate priorities fill in with that as well. And then probably one of the best things that has happened since then was I was able to focus on life priorities. And for about a decade, I spent investing, creating other streams of income. And so what that allowed me to do was, when my corporate career ended in my late 40s, well, now I don't look back to go to corporate because I got the things from corporate that I really wanted to gain. And that's now helped me as we continue to, in this new phase, serve accredited investors and allow them to now start doing the exact same thing, being able to create new streams of income, be able to keep more of their income so that they can, well, create their path to freedom by focusing on their life goals and not necessarily the company's life goals. So anyway, like I said, thinking about this whole default path, it's something that you have to be aware of because it creeps up on you. It literally creeps up on you. It's not your fault, like I said, because you get surrounded by the really high salaries, the nice cars, the benefits, and all these kinds of things. Just remember, when you can focus on breaking that default path, it allows you to really move your own personal life goals forward. And at the same time, you can still be a very productive employee. Like I said, I was a better employee once I started focusing on all my own stuff versus on the company's goals first, right? You have to focus on both of them, but the main focus was on what really wanted to be able to do. So like I said, I wanted to share this thought process with you. And also because, like I said, we started talking about the default path, and that's something that it's very easy to fall into. And also want to get out here and talk to you about other things as well as just beyond investing. So would love to know what you think. Always open to your feedback, things like that. But just felt like this was something that was really, really important to share with you. So take today's conversation, ask questions, share it with other people. Have you even thought about this whole thing about the default path? Do you feel like you're on it? And is this helpful for you to be able to understand that there are other ways for you to also not just be able to win in your personal life, but also be a much more productive employee, get the best of both worlds. So listen, everybody, while you're thinking about this, while you're sharing this, talking to your friends, I'm going to be preparing another one of these kind of solo episodes. So I want you to go out and make it a great day. And thank you very much. Trust that you enjoyed today's conversation. And once again, today's conversation was sponsored by First Generation Capital Partners. If you're an accredited investor and want to find out more about how we're helping accredited investors to gain their personal freedom even faster, go to firstgencp.com/going long.